Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our The Blacklist discussion.
It is not Friday. It is Wednesday. I know. Listen, guys, we promised you that we were going to have Blacklist every Friday.
Yeah.
And we are still going to deliver on that.
Yeah.
But the thing is we've been itching to talk about the Blacklist all week long. So we decided to give you a bonus video today and talk about the Blacklist. But we also have been discussing having 2 Blacklists a week.
Listen, we've grown so ingrained in discussing the Blacklist like all week long that we're kind of in a spot now where when it's not Friday, we're just sort of sitting around and being like, when is Friday? We gotta talk the Blacklist. We can't control ourselves.
Yeah, and we talk about the Blacklist together all the time, but we also enjoy talking to you guys about it and sitting around all week being like, is it Friday yet?
Yeah.
Is it Friday yet? We decided that besides Blacklist Fridays, we are also going to be doing Blacklist Tuesdays. We're going to have them up normally on Tuesday. Today's just sort of like the bonus to let you guys know what we're doing, that this is what the plan is.
This subject, I think, is a really important one because we've seen it discussed in the comments. We've discussed it a lot, and it's this idea of, did Reddington do just an absolutely terrible thing in asking Liz to kill him, given all of the circumstances that have been established on the show?
Yeah, so we're going to get a bit deeper into that and sort of, does it make sense for his character? Is it something that people liked, people didn't like? How that would have affected Liz depending on who he is? I mean, we're going to get into all of that.
Yeah, and before we do, of course, hit that subscribe button because if we're doing multiple Blacklist things a week here, why would you want to miss out on being one of our fellow Blacklisters as we investigate all of these mysteries with our pretend magnifying glass?
Tuesdays, Fridays, hit that subscribe button. Also follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. We put up pictures there all the time.
Okay, so this subject is deep and it is intense and thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's really intense. We've seen some pretty intense conversations going on here at the channel about whether or not what Reddington did, asking Liz to kill him and then telling him that only after she's allowed to know who he really is. And I've said that I think there's only 2 possibilities. It's either he's her mother, he's her father.
Yeah.
He's a parent. And if that's the case, that he is a parent, what he's asking of her, in my opinion, is kind of cruel. I mean, she's gone through her whole life not really knowing who her parents are. She luckily had Sam, her adoptive father, who, raised her, and that was great.
Yeah.
And a very important person in her life, her dad. But she has been on the search to know who her biological parents are, or sort of really get to know a little bit more about it, where they are, what happened, are they dead, are they alive, what is going on. The idea that she would get to sort of the end of the road and then she would kill someone who is her parent and then afterwards find out that she killed her parent, I can't imagine what that would do to her as a mother to her own child. Would she be able to live with herself? Like, it just seems mean.
I've thought a lot about the problems of the season 8 finale, and as we have discussed, there are multiple problems, but to me, this is the second biggest problem with the finale, with the first obviously being Liz dying without actually knowing anything, which I don't know if I will ever get over.
No.
But this is really big because, if I'm Liz and I kill Reddington and I don't know who he is, and then you get that note, provided that, I guess Dembe didn't secretly give her a note in advance or whatever, but I don't know if I could handle it if it was like, oh, I just killed my father, I just killed my mother. Like, how could Reddington, who he has claimed through the entirety of the show that he wants to protect her, he wants to care for her. There is a thing as protecting someone physically, making sure they don't die, but also protecting their heart, protecting their soul. It's like doing something that could psychologically damage Liz for the rest of her life. How is that protecting her?
I agree 100%. I just don't think a parent would ask their child to do something like that. and then tell them afterwards. Now, I understand the idea where Reddington's kind of like, listen, I know that if she knows that I'm her mother or her father, she won't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. As a parent, if you know that,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't do that to your kid, because then if they find out afterwards, that's even worse. That is something that could potentially lead her to taking her own life if it's something she can't actually live with.
Yeah. And that just makes me wonder then, of course, is there any sort of way that Reddington is not actually her family still? And this is the thing with it. It's like you said earlier, it feels like he's either got to be her father or her mother. I don't know how anything else works. But if we're supposed to sort of like ascribe the logic of how Reddington acts to his identity, then it doesn't make any sense that he would ask Liz of this if he was a parent, because he would know better. And I would have to be something where, whether he's an uncle or whether he's a close confidant, or Liz would struggle with killing him after the fact, but she would also at least be able to go about her life moving forward as opposed to killing a parent.
Yeah, I think with how much Reddington loves her, cares for her, wants her to be well, do well, be a good mom to Agnes, he wants her to take over his empire and be a functioning human being.
Yeah.
I just can't see a parent asking their child to kill them and then afterwards being like, hey, by the way, I'm your mom, I'm your dad, sorry, but not sorry, and then expect them to be able to go on and, have a good mental health frame of mind. This part of the story just hasn't made really any sense to me at all. What would have made a bit more sense is if it was more of like, instead of asking her to do this, that maybe he just set it up in a way that she was there, he was there, and he just had a sniper do it, where it made it look like she did it for everyone that's around. Like, just some kind of other way to put this together.
This is actually a question I've just started to think about a little bit more. It's just that why did it have to be in this environment in the first place? Because Reddington was at a restaurant with a ton of people in there. It feels to me, actually, like if something happened in there would be a lot more people to tell the tale. Whereas forcing Liz to do this outside, what if nobody was around?
Yeah, I know, his whole, thing was flawed with that as well, because he was kind of like, okay, it'll be on this street where there's, security cameras out there, and we'll have it on tape, and people will see it, and the tape will go through whatever. Okay, well, you don't actually need that. You can doctor a tape. It's not a thing that you actually have to die for. You can do this another way, 100 different ways, where it doesn't make it that Liz has to live with this and carry this albatross around her neck for the rest of her life, which will affect her daughter as well. I just don't believe that Reddington would ever do something like that to her after everything that he sacrificed in his life for her, to protect her, to care for her, to love her, to then do something like that. It feels very out of character. It really didn't make any sense to me.
The other weirdness here, of course, is just that Reddington was already sick. He's already dying. You don't know when Reddington's gonna die. I understand if Reddington just dies of his sickness, you can't have your big, public showcase of it. But it's like you just said, tapes can be doctored. Why can't Reddington just sort of die of natural causes eventually, and then them stage something else just down the road?
Or if he really wanted it to be that it's, at Liz's hand, but not really. He could have picked any other way than shooting him on the street and hoping that the security camera picks it up. He could have made it that Liz poisoned him and start, putting fingerprints, put her down the hole with something like that. There are other ways to set something like this up. The whole thing of him getting killed by Liz it just didn't make sense, and it wasn't satisfying in any kind of way, because it felt just like such a hit in the curb of going away from who Reddington has been for 8 seasons. He wouldn't do it.
This is what I'm sort of thinking about now with a lot of this, is that I kind of wonder if this was never the intention for this finale to go, but once they realized that Megan was leaving and that they had to figure out something to do with this, that they did sort of hit the curb, to use your analogy, and kind of came up with this on the fly. And maybe they didn't think through like the actual emotional ramifications of it, because either they didn't have time or they couldn't think of anything else to get the Liz character written off.
I think the other thing is that I'm sure they knew that they were going to kill Liz off.
Yeah.
So that they maybe felt like it didn't matter anyways, because she was never going to end up in that situation where she has killed her mother or father. She was never going to kill Reddington. So what Reddington was asking of her, it doesn't matter. And that us as an audience would overlook it because she was never actually put in that position of the after the death. But she was put in that position because Reddington asked her to do it and then told Dembe not to give her the letter until afterwards. So he still made that choice and did that. And yeah, I don't believe he would.
Yeah, these stipulations that were all around this are just really difficult and really complicated, and it sets up a situation that you can't compare to anything else that Liz has done or Liz has wanted to do, because this has never been dangling over her before. It's never been if you do this, then you get this, with this being the thing that you've wanted for the entire series.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say that it was like a very interesting deal in that way, that she ended up choosing to not get the truth, to be able to save Reddington, that her love for him ended up being more important than the truth in the end. And we've seen a little bit of that throughout, the series anyways, where she does end up typically choosing Reddington over the truth anyways. Even when she's had the chance to kill him, she pushed the button on a couple times, so there's a couple times she just couldn't do it anyways.
What I'm personally kind of hoping now in season 9 is that Reddington himself maybe comes to terms with some of what we're asking in this video, and is sort of like, maybe that wasn't the best thing to ask of Liz, or maybe I handled this stuff. Like, Reddington's been contrite before if he's done things wrong. I kind of hope we see some of that.
Yeah, I just think there was a lot of other options that they could have gone with that didn't have to do with him setting her up to kill him in any way, not by, shooting him, poison, like nothing. There was just other options.
Yeah, there was always other choices. There could have been different things that are done. I mean, we'll see, obviously, what they bring to the table.
Yeah, setting her up to be like a murderer on the run as a fugitive for the rest of her life, dealing with killing her parents. Like, this was all around just not working.
It's messy, and
it's messy,
it's forcing her to basically live this sort of crazy life that's kind of akin to the one that he lived. And now we don't know what she would have been able to do if she had walked away from that scene. We don't know what her future would have been.
I just think if she had killed him and found out that he was a parent, that I just don't think she would have been able to live with herself after going through 8 years of all the stuff that she did to get to these answers. And living without her biological parents, and I just don't think she would have been able to live through it.
And I think all of this is so important now in establishing the psychology of Reddington moving forward in season 9, and that's sort of the thing we'll dive even more into over the coming weeks. But we'll tie together this special Wednesday Blacklist video now. I feel so relieved that we got all this off our chest.
I know, it's so good to be able to come and talk to you guys. So Tuesdays, Fridays, you are going to get videos from us all summer long until the show comes back.
All right, well, give us your thoughts on all this. Was this unbelievable for Reddington to even ask of this? Where do you think this puts his headspace moving forward? Let us know, and hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date. You don't miss our Blacklist coverage. We'll see you guys here next time.